Welcome everyone to Pathway to 17, the 2023 edition. This year, we're focusing on the intersection between digital development, digital economies, and gender equality or gender equity. We've got dozens of speakers lined up for you over the next few days, and we have a wonderful audience and platform that you're all familiar with, that we can drive some good audience participation through. Pathway to 17 is focused on the Sustainable Development Goals and really looks at how each of you as professionals in the Sustainable Development Goal realm can contribute to a better world. My name is Gavin. I am the CEO and co-founder at Digital Frontiers. Today I have Shivani Kotecha from Bankable Frontiers. Shivani is the program manager and talent lead from an initiative called Kotecha, which we'll talk to in a few minutes. Welcome, Shivani.
Well, thank you, Gavin, for having me at this session.
Today we're talking a little bit further than digital development and gender equality. We're looking at some data, first of all, about the future of work and specifically the future of jobs for good. We know that from PricewaterhouseCoopers, the World Economic Forum's Future of Work, the International Labour Organization's Institute and OECD Institute of the Future, that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. It's 85% of the jobs in just a few years' time are yet to be invented. We also know from this research and work that 50% of all employees around the world are going to need reskilling. And 40% of current workers' core skills are expected to change in the next 5 years. We also know that we have around 800 million youth around the world without the basic skills necessary to enter the future workforce by 2030. And that 58% of students today feel underprepared for the world of work. We know that in Africa specifically, we have an incredibly high unemployment rate. All of these indicators indicate not only a challenge, but also an opportunity. And for me, that opportunity is around skilling and reskilling for the future of work or for future jobs, and specifically skilling and reskilling for a future of jobs that are for good. At Digital Frontiers, we have a vision that 20% of the world's future jobs will be dedicated to solving the world's biggest problems. But we ask ourselves, where will the workforce for good come from? What capabilities will the workforce for good need? Who's going to create these future jobs? Who's going to invent the uninvented jobs? And who will the employers be? We have a firm belief that industry at large will respond to the need for 85% of newly invented jobs, or the reskilling of the existing workforce towards things that industry need, commercialized opportunities, for-profit initiatives and ventures, but are a little bit concerned about really where is the labor force for good going to come from, and how do we find opportunities to retool at least 20% of this future workforce towards jobs for good. So that's the framing for today's conversation. What we thought we'd do is bring in an excellent example of a 20 for Good initiative that is starting to lay the foundations for a future workforce or a future for good. I'm going to ask you, Shivani, just to give us a little bit of an introduction first to yourself and then to Kotecha. What does it stand for, both in its TECA, but then also as an initiative? And how do you feel that Kotecha is an example of a future, a good future, but a future workforce for good? Shivani, let me hand over to you.
Of Great. Well, thank you, Gavin. So introducing myself, my name is Shivani Kotecha. I am a consultant at BFA Global. And under BFA Global, we have a program called TECA, where I'm the program manager and talent lead. So what is TECA? TECA stands for Triggering Exponential Climate Action, and we are a venture launcher that invests in individuals to build climate tech startups. And the program's vision is to support high potential individuals across emerging markets looking to build climate solutions for climate resilience. The way the program runs is that we have two phases. The first phase is what we like to call the team and idea formation phase. So we bring together a group of potential fellows or founders that are interested in building climate tech solutions. They don't really need to come in with a particular solution in mind, but it's not limited to that. If they have a solution in mind or they have a specific prototype, we're willing to take in someone that doesn't actually have a company incorporated, but just an idea or no idea, but a passion at the end of the day to build climate solutions. They come together. These are all strangers across emerging markets. And from there, they decide to work together, form teams, build ideas within this incubation space. To support them doing this, the TECA team and our group of advisors and our community help them think through ideas, help them think through, upskill them through masterclasses, provide training. We have this series, what we like to call the How I Launch series, where we bring serial entrepreneurs to speak to them about their journeys and their challenges, and just basically help reskill and upskill them around the world of entrepreneurship and the world around climate and climate resilient solutions, so that they have the best possible skill set to go from just having an idea to launching a company. So this phase, the team and idea formation phase, takes about 3 months. And then from there, we get an array of ideas that come out of it, and we will pick 7 of them. And these 7 ideas then just go from being an idea to then having a product in market. So we work basically hands-on venture building support with them, where we support them through building their product, thinking through their idea, going into field with them to test it with their users. And we also provide funding. So we do know that in order to launch a company and to go into entrepreneurship, funding is one of the key barriers. And so we at TECA provide them the initial funding. We provide $55,000 in flexible capital, of which 50% would be in terms of venture building services to help them go from idea to product stage. But the other 50% is the cash that helps them do this. And yeah, that is how TECA works. Beyond the 7 months, we also continuously support them to fundraise, to help them build traction so that they're ready to go from TECA to other accelerator programs, to then to be able to grow and to be sustainable within the entrepreneurship space. So that's a little bit about TECA. TECA actually launched last year. We had our very first wave, and our focus was the blue economy. The first wave was supported by FSD Africa, and we were looking for 40 individuals in across the eastern borders of Africa. And so because it was our first wave, we didn't actually get the 40, we got 30 individuals, but we got really great 30 individuals who came on board, and they were across 7 different countries, ranging from Egypt through to South Africa. And we got 7 amazing ideas. 2 were around aquaculture, 2 were around nature-based solutions. And then, I think 4 were around nature-based solutions, and 3 were around small-scale fishes and aquaculture. And from there, they went through the whole process. We had, in terms of statistics of the type of founders and fellows that we got, we had 50% women, 50% men, and that trend continued as well with the ideas. Other than that, in terms of the backgrounds of individuals that we look for that are coming to build these solutions, we had people from various backgrounds, so tech backgrounds, because our focus was a blue economy, so rivers, lakes, oceans, and seas. We had people that came from the marine / blue economy space. We had the tech people because we're building tech ventures. And then a mix of like product managers, designers, marketing, people that just had a passion for climate. With that said, we had a very exciting first wave and it showed great results, that we now have launched our second wave in partnership with FSD Africa and the Canadian government, supported by IUCN and Mission Inclusion. Our focus again is the blue economy. So we'll be building climate tech resilient climate tech ventures for the blue economy in 5 focus countries this time, though, which should be Kenya, Tanzania, Madagascar, Mozambique, and Comoros. So this is also a call for applications. If anyone knows people within these areas or wants to apply to be part of the next Tech Wave, we're actually accepting applications, and they close at the end of October.
What I'm hearing, Shivani, is here's an initiative that is supporting entrepreneurs that have a vision, purpose, and mission for good, right? And here specifically looking at climate resilience and climate change is the problem to be solved, and tech are looking to support entrepreneurs that have promising solutions linked to that grand challenge. Could you give us an example of, one or two of them that have, what are the entrepreneurial solutions that are coming your way?
Yeah, so I can actually name a few from our first cohort. So an example could be VUA. So VUA is a climate tech company that is supporting small-scale fishers in the coast area of Kenya. And their goal is to provide them with financial services so they have a stable income across the year. So we do know that because they're small-scale fishers, they rely on the fishing season. And so they have very high seasons and they can earn up to like 3,000 shillings a day. But during low seasons, they can earn up to basically nothing. And so there will be months in the year where they have a very high income, and then months in the year where they have completely zero income. And so what VUA is trying to do is create this savings platform where they're able to save parts of their income from the seasons where they have high season, which then allows them to have a more stable income across the year. So that, I guess, is like the financial tech aspect of the solution. Where the climate angle comes is that they're actually supporting these fishermen with sustainable fishing practices. So, for example, teaching them on how to fish sustainably, how to take the fish sustainably from the site to the end users, in like through cold storage, or how to like secure them over ice so there's like less wastage. So teaching these practices as a way to be able to increase their output, but then also have stable income. So it's one company that I think is doing a really great job. Another one, I guess, would be Wezesha Aqua Farms. And so we do know that open fishing sometimes cannot give you the quantity / the quality that you need. And what Wezesha is doing is they're working with cooperatives currently in Mwanza, Tanzania, where they've built a fish cage for them, and they're providing fish feed as well to be able to grow fish at scale, but then also in the right temperatures and the right, I guess, environment to be able to have a good yield at the end of the day. So one, it's sustainable because you're growing it in a sustainable manner, but then also it's providing an income to these cooperatives because they will have a certain math at the end of the day.
Right.
And I guess it's interesting. I think we're talking about jobs for good. So yes, we're creating companies which will then, I guess, create jobs for youth as well, because these are the people that are coming through tech are also youth. So at the end of the day, they will be attracting youth to be employed at their companies that they are building. But it's also supporting the youth that are going into, for example, small-scale fishing or into aquaculture, because you're providing them more of a stable income. It becomes more exciting. It's a way for them to see that this is an alternative source of income, and gets them excited because it's innovative, it's new, and it's something that they've grown up because of family history, but then in a way it's like, okay, you can also earn a stable income and go beyond that.
Other than the stock standard entrepreneurial talents that you're looking for, which is very capable, visionary entrepreneurs, you mentioned the marketers, etc., which are fairly standard. I'm interested in unpacking a little bit more that downscale employment. Talking about youth. If these companies, or when, let's put the positive spin on it, when these companies scale and become immensely successful and scale to the point that they are employing hundreds or even thousands of individuals, right? What do those jobs look like outside the entrepreneur? What are the grassroots jobs look like? And you can just pick a couple examples.
I guess beyond the entrepreneurship space. So like, for example, if these not for example, one day when these companies grow to scale and are able to support larger communities and have a larger user base, at the end of the day, they are supporting these grassroots communities. And these are communities that have this amazing skill set. So coastal communities have this amazing skill set about fishing and how to, and like, it's their home, it's their ocean, their goal it's embedded that they will be fishing. And so, but we also know that a lot of people and a lot of youth have recently like migrated from like farming, whether it be agriculture farming, whether it be fish farming, to the more urban setting to get more stable jobs, to have more jobs within the city. And I guess empowering these youth in these communities, showing them that yes, we as companies are able to support you, to provide you the means, the financial means, the inputs, the access to be able to grow food, allow you to be more independent rather than having a job at a company that you may or may not get, this depending on like where the jobs are going in future. But over here, we're providing you an opportunity to create your own business, to be able to fish, to be able to be your own boss, to be able to have inputs, to be able to have finance, to be able to scale. So I feel like these companies that we're trying to create at the end of the day is to empower the grassroots communities, to show them that they can use the resources around them in a sustainable manner to be good for them, to be economically beneficial to them. And at the end of the day, like, for example, Wazesha is working with cooperatives, which is around like 100, 200 users. So those are like creating income for 200 people at the end of the day. And
Right.
so is Vuan. So it's like working with these communities on ground, showing that there is an alternative source of income. There's an alternative source of stable income. And I guess that is what we're hoping to do. So I guess defining jobs is not just the regular employment where you go and you work for a company, but it's more of like having a career path which you think is stable, which you think is exciting and provides, which is economically beneficial for you. And why not work at the coast that you have grown up with, and that is so beautiful and provides you with that.
It's quite a bundle of jobs for good, right? And so whether it's the grassroots jobs of actually doing the fishing, doing the growing, or it's the entrepreneur that's creating a financing solution for them, or the entrepreneur that's creating a technological solution around what they're doing that supports them to do it better, right? There's a whole bundle of jobs there that do fall into the for good category, right? So it's not, when we talk about 85% of the future jobs are yet to be invented. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a scaling of those jobs that are already there for good, using either innovations coming from entrepreneurs or the scaling of grassroots capabilities.
I totally agree with you. And the other thing that I would like to add is that I see by 2030, there's this whole like we'll need to pivot into this like new space, whether it be like it's a whole climate space around food security, around health, around like our oceans, around our agriculture. And so it's not more, I guess it's more of like pivoting the skills that we already have and how can they be placed at this like new sector. I feel like it's not necessarily just changing complete like 180 direction of what skills that we have. Is just more tailoring them towards the new companies that will be coming out of it and how your skill set could be more relevant for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just laundry list here a few more jobs for good that we've come up with, and just to stimulate some conversation, perhaps around how how do we get the youth and the unemployed reskilled, retool towards these? Is it more of techers? What is it? What are some of the ideas that we can work towards stimulating these? But let me give you an example, or several examples of future jobs for good. So the first is healthcare innovation. So with an aging global population, there's an increasing need for innovation in healthcare delivery and treatment. Jobs in fields such as biotech, digital health, and personalized medicine could play a critical role in addressing the healthcare challenges and improving patient outcomes. Here in South Africa, and especially on the African continent, there isn't enough government budget really to be able to upskill the level, the quantum of primary healthcare workers that we need using today's mechanisms or methods of providing primary healthcare. And so without a digital intervention or a technological intervention, we're not going to be able to serve the healthcare needs of the poor. And things like biotech, digital health, or a future profession called a digital health professional, perhaps, and entrepreneurs in biotech, for example, are really the future jobs for good that'll solve that. Another more obvious one is education innovation. With rapid changes in technology and the way we work, there's a growing need for innovative approaches to education and training. Jobs in edtech. We're one of those companies. Online learning and adult education could help to address the skills gap and provide more opportunities for lifelong learning in that space. You've spoken a lot about sustainable agriculture. With a growing global population and increasing demand for food, there is a need for more sustainable and efficient agricultural practices. Jobs in areas such as precision agriculture, vertical farming, and alternative protein sources could play a key role in addressing food security challenges and reducing the environmental impact of agriculture. Our industry colleagues at Caribou Space, for an example, space exploration could be a job for good. As we continue to explore the universe, there will be new challenges to overcome and opportunities to discover. Jobs in space technology, research and exploration could help us to better understand our place in the universe and address new challenges related to space travel and colonization. It's a stretch, but it could be a job for good. What I love about the work that's happening at Caribou Space is they're looking at, well, how do we turn the tools that we have in space around looking back at Earth and use that to better our blue economy, to better climate resilience, etc. One we know quite well, a job for good, is renewable energy. So here in South Africa, we've had now a few years of load shedding, or called or rolling blackouts. And so jobs related to the development and deployment of renewable energy technology such as solar, wind, and hydropower play a critical role in addressing climate change and reducing our our reliance on fossil fuels. You've spoken a lot about sustainable finance, and really the intersections that finance has in all of these sustainable development goals and in the future of the planet is so important. One that I'm really passionate about is circular economy. Jobs related to the development of circular economy models focus on reducing waste and promoting the reuse and recycling of materials, can help to address the growing problem of waste and pollution. And then social impacts, as we know, environmental conservation, we can go on and on and on. So it's not a stretch of the imagination to think about a future where 20% of the workforce is focused on solving the world's biggest problems. When you start seeing those lists and thinking, hold on a second, we can think differently about what a job is. We can think about a job that is for good and still creates an income and still, lifts our population out of poverty while actually solving the world's biggest problems. Shivani, thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. I think it's just seeing that the skill set that you have is very relevant in these new upcoming sectors that, one, are very exciting, two, are the future and basically inevitable, and three, it's jobs for good, as you mentioned. It's areas that are exploring on how we can support our communities out of poverty, how we can support our earth from basically destroying itself, to support our people in terms of healthcare. So I think there are a lot of innovative, exciting jobs that will come up. And I think I guess it's more of having the youth just understand that there are alternative jobs out there that would be as as exciting as a mainstream job that they would currently consider. And I guess, yeah, it's just having them be aware of these current opportunities. How can we do that? How can we help them and show them that this is an area that they could be in? This is an area that they should be innovative in, or they should be striving to work towards. And I think, again, yeah, it's so many exciting areas that are coming up and that will be there by 2030.
Shivani, I just want to push a little bit on that. I don't see big industry generating these jobs yet, right? Some might, in the big energy, renewable energy, etc., is coming along as big industry. Is it this grassroots working from the base up, inspiring young excluded entrepreneurs, excluded as in excluded from mainstream entrepreneurial schooling and all that kind of stuff? Do you think this is really where we're going to get the momentum and the innovation, especially for a future of work for good? Is it from the grassroots, or do you think big industry is going to just take over?
Oh, that's a hard one. We've always seen big industries take over in specific areas. But I mean, even if they do, that still doesn't, I mean, there's always room for innovation. There's always room for entrepreneurship. So yes, they could be key players, and actually they should be value chain players. They should be the ones supporting these innovators that are coming out of it. I guess at the end of the day, we're just trying to create jobs for good. So why not be also supporters of the people and the innovators that are supporting grassroots communities that are also creating jobs for themselves through entrepreneurship, creating jobs through their companies, and then supporting livelihoods of communities on ground. They could be accelerators, I think, more rather than people that take over. And I think that's the way it should be, especially around this whole topic for jobs for good.
I like that idea, right? Being the enablers in the value chain around specifically grassroots entrepreneurs, right, or innovators at the base. I do think that where, especially where the youth are involved, I do think that the innovation is going to come from the young. The innovation is going to come from the excluded, right? The innovation is going to come from necessity. Necessity. And I think that's quite exciting for us to imagine a world where a tech entrepreneur scales because the big giants of the world's heads lift and say, actually, you're onto something, right? You're onto something. Let's take these innovations and scale them.
Big corporations, at the end of the day, we know with innovation and early stage entrepreneurship, there are a lot of hurdles and a lot of challenges, funding being one, policies being another one. Finding what your product is and how to define it and how to really find that like niche market. But yeah, big corporations could be more of enablers and support them through these various areas, whether it be access to market, whether it be the funding. But I think we, as an ecosystem, we should all play players that do this together to have that goal of 20% jobs for good.
Just to summarize, what I'm hearing is actually there is a future for good, right? And there's a lot of opportunity. And I think most of the innovations in the world have come from solving challenging problems. And if this is what we're facing as a planet, is a breadth of challenging problems. And this is where innovation is going to drive. So a future where 20% of future jobs are for the betterment of the planet seems like a very likely outcome. Thank you so much for your time today. What we'll do now is we're going to introduce Nazrana Sultan, who is the head of strategy and business planning at Digital Frontiers. Nazrana is also the leading thinker behind the 20 for Good movement. So it's her research, her analysis, etc., that has driven this. Nazrana is going to facilitate a audience conversation and discussion and take my place in this chair. And so for those of you that are watching us now, we will now switch across to Naz, who will answer and facilitate any questions for Shivani and for the 20 for Good movement. I just want to again welcome everyone to Pathway to 17. I hope that this session gives you a little bit of a glimpse of the diversity the future diversity that we can bring into Pathway to 17, where we are laying the career pathways to a world where the Sustainable Development Goals achieve what they set out to be. Welcome, everyone. Enjoy the next few days, and a very special thank you again to Shivani and the team at Teka for all the work that you're doing.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. Thank you, Gavin and Shivani, for that informative, balanced, and I must say, very engaging conversation. I think I have more questions in the audience about that, but I'm thrilled to be moderating this session. And just to add on to Gavin, what Gavin said, this is an area that's very close to my heart, having researched and be the person that's had direction in this new strategy for digital frontiers. But without any further ado, we've already have questions in the chat for Shivani. And so the first question, Shivani, is where is the geographical intervention of the Terra project, and is Niger a concern?
So for our current wave, the Africa Blue Wave, it's focused on Kenya, Tanzania, Madagascar, Mozambique, and Comoros. But yes, West Africa is a concern, and we're hoping to launch another wave in West Africa in the near future. We are currently at the process where we like to call wave seeding, which is landscaping the market and understanding what the current challenges are there. And it shall be taking place in Nigeria, I believe, next week. And from there, hopefully, we are able to kick off a red wave. Or the idea is red wave because we know there's heat in cities. That's an issue around those parts of the world.
Thanks, Shivani. I think just to add to that, those areas specifically in Africa, the West, have high unemployment rate, a large population of young people. And with programs like Teka, and other policies that government have introduced on inclusive youth development, entrepreneurship to stimulate employment amongst the youth. What do you think are one of the main challenges that face entrepreneurs in those geographical areas?
Yeah, so from our experience, and even through our accelerator program, Catalyst Fund, and even the talent program that we ran, there's a lot of talent within that area. It's very booming. There are a lot of issues, but there's also scope for, I believe, innovation, like green innovation, blue innovation, in whatever color people want to describe it. And there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of innovation out there. I just believe providing the right opportunities and probing the people, or providing solutions, maybe like Teka, maybe even just supporting entrepreneurs, existing companies further to develop their solutions around climate innovation, and even beyond, around health innovation, which is also an issue around the circular economy. So, yeah.
Thanks, Shivani. My Andile tells me that there's 5 minutes left for Q&A, but I think just to wrap up and to stimulate more conversation in this area, and to add to what Gavin said earlier on about the bulging youth population, in the next decade, 42% of the world's youth will be from Africa alone, and which will be under the age of 35. And so what does that mean for the future workforce of Africa, which will surpass China and India, and stats say that the next decade will what they call a youth quake, in inverted commas. And programs like Terra, which is accelerating skills that the youth requires, and are fast growing these new jobs that the future of good will look like. How do you think businesses as well as government can play a role in accelerating programs like Teka?
So through collaboration. So for governments, I think it's what we've seen is friendly policies, or visibility in the policies that are coming out around new areas of work. So we talked about how there will be a shift in the jobs within the next couple of years, and we don't know what these particular jobs will be, but we know particular sectors. So would it be health care? Would it be climate? And so there'll be a lot of changing policies that government could support these new innovators coming through it. Or innovations coming through that could be supported by friendly government policies and transparency. Because I do think, from at least from the perspective right now when we're speaking to our tech entrepreneurs, is that if they wanted some support from the government, I think it would be transparency of the policies that are out there and how these policies can help accelerate their innovations. I think around existing businesses and I guess big corporations is being able to support and collaborate with the new innovations that are coming out from the youth of today. I think there's a lot of great work and great minds coming out. But for example, it's seeing how they could help accelerate these solutions faster, provide them with skills, whether it be banking services and working with the banking sector, or tech services that can help promote their solutions, which then reach the grassroots communities. So I believe, it's more of collaboration and visibility as a whole. And I mean, other than that, I think funding is always the biggest issue. And so providing more programs of support to more programs like Kotecha and other venture launchers or accelerators to be able to fund these innovative innovations that are a little bit of a high risk, people would say, but then have the potential to grow and to support the youth, support the grassroots communities, and also support employment.
Thank you, Shivani. That was a very good answer and very detailed. So with 2 minutes left, actually a minute left, just to summarize this topic and our conversation, I think what Shivani and Gavin says is unlimited opportunities for Africans specifically. And so I'm sure Shivani and Gavin will agree with me that it's the season for Africans. But for Africans to navigate this reskilling crisis, like Shivani says, we need government as well as businesses, educators, communities to adopt a holistic approach in cultivating a future-ready workforce that co-creates innovative solutions as well as embrace inclusivity. And so in order for us to propel Africa into this new era of prosperity and to embrace technological process, I think it's important for programs like Kotecha to exist, as well as to frame what the future entrepreneurs and the future workforce will look like. And with that, I want to thank everyone for their participation and for their attendance today. And I look forward to meeting you in the networking session, as well as having rather engaging sessions with you. Thank you, everyone.